Hello, this is Tony with Market Moves. I'm doing a quick live stream here. So let me start by saying that nothing I say is, of course, financial advice. I am not a financial advisor. This is not financial advice. This information is intended for entertainment and educational purposes only. So let's get started. Hopefully you can hear me. If someone's out there, let me know if you can hear me. Otherwise, I will continue. So what is this live stream about? Why am I doing a live stream? Why does it matter? Unless you've been living under a rock, you know what's going on with SVB or Silicon Valley Bank. Silicon Valley Bank has recently been. Hey, thank you, Stephen Pecci, for saying I'm loud and clear. Excellent, thank you. So, unless you've been living under a rock, you know what's going on with Silicon Valley Bank and the fact that they've been taken into FDIC receivership. If you're a depositor there and you have less than $250,000, no big deal, you will get your money. The thing is that FDIC only covers you up to $250,000. Anything above that is not covered under FDIC insurance, and there's a lot of money in Silicon Valley Bank. It's the 15th biggest bank in the US of A, and so that matters. The fact that they didn't really do anything hyperly wrong per se. They're a bank. Banks are pretty conservative. They were not doing anything that could be considered super aggressive. In fact, they're pretty they're pretty laid back. So Silicon Valley Bank went under. What does it mean? Why did they go under? All the and all of that stuff, right? So they had invested in T-bills, and unfortunately they invested in T-bills when interest rates were super low. And now interest rates are going up, and as a result, Silicon Valley Bank had problems. They had liquidity problems because, if interest rates start going up. So when you buy a bond, what happens, right? You're not actually getting interest. When you're buying a bond, you're buying something at a discount. If you're buying a bond at like 99 cents on the dollar, that basically means you're receiving very, very little interest, right? They back calculate what the interest is. So they bought T-bills at 99.9 cents on the dollar because the dollar is very strong, right? Didn't do anything wrong there. It's considered top tier investment. But when interest rates start going back up, those bonds drop in value, right? On the secondary market. So they had to sell the bonds in the secondary market, taking a huge loss because they paid 99 cents on the dollar. They might get 70 cents on the dollar, 60 cents on the dollar. Who knows? Whatever they got on the dollar, right? But that's why they took a loss. That's why that matters. Why does it matter to you and me? Well, as you know, for the last 3 months, the only thing I care about has been MMTLP because I invested a lot of money in MMTLP because I viewed it as the safest thing on the planet. And I still believe, going back in time, looking at all the information I had, I didn't do a single damn thing wrong. And if you invested in MMTLP, you didn't do a single damn thing wrong either. We did everything right because all the numbers were correct. Everything said MMTLP was on the first hand, it was stable. It was the most stable stock on the planet for about a year. The rest of the market was crashing. MMTLP was flat as a rock. And the reason for its stability is there was a whole bunch of shorts that were trapped, right? The shorts were trapped that they wanted to get out. They wanted you to sell their shares to them for pennies on the dollar. But everyone else said, hey, look, we'd like a piece of this action. So naturally, we bought MMTLP. And when the shorts saw the price was going back up, what did they have to do? They had to drop the price back down. Otherwise, they would be so far underwater, they would go bankrupt. So they kept shorting. And that's why the price was so stable. It was incredibly stable for the last year. So all of that was correct. All of that was fine. What I never thought would ever happen was that FINRA would pull a U3 halt. Of course, nobody thought that. That was ludicrous to think FINRA would pull a U3 halt, right? You only do that if it's like the end of the world and tanks are rolling down the streets and then the dollar has lost confidence and everyone's, invested in gold instead of that. No, they should not have done that. That was totally ludicrous transaction. But FINRA stuck, right? Because they said, okay, we pulled a U3 halt. We can't back out of it now. Otherwise, we'll be proved that we were corrupt. Okay. Now they have an opportunity. Okay, and I'll explain what the opportunity is. Silicon Valley Bank has basically it's in deep crap. Okay, it's a fact. People are lucky if they get people with over $250,000 are lucky if they get 60 cents on the dollar. Who knows, right? Why does this matter? It matters because there weren't that many short sellers out there for Silicon Valley Bank. It was like one or two, a few, right? They made about $500 million. It's not a lot of money. But the fact that Silicon Valley Bank went under and went under fast, that has got I'm absolutely sure that's got a lot of short sellers just thinking, hey, gee, how can I make money on this? I missed out on Silicon Valley Bank going under, couldn't short them into oblivion. But are there any other banks that we could short into oblivion? I'm sure that's what the short sellers are thinking. That's what they always think, right? So the question is this a trend? If Silicon Valley Bank didn't do anything wrong, is there a systemic, endemic problem with banking in general? And I'm sure that's what short sellers want you to think. And I'm sure they're thinking to themselves, if I can get a short position in the banking industry, that would be awesome. Now, do I think that short sellers are the only ones who think this? Of course not. I'm not the smartest guy on the planet. I'm just some old guy. But what's the other side of this? The other side of this is the SEC and the Federal Reserve, right? They're going to work hand in hand, one way or the other. The Fed does not want short sellers going out there shorting banks like crazy, right? The SEC does not want short sellers going out there shorting banks like crazy because they want jobs at the company. I mean, the SEC individuals want jobs at the companies that the Fed will recommend. It's a revolving door. You go out of the SEC, you work at Goldman Sachs or something like that, and then you go back you might get a job in the Fed. You do the circuit with lectures and whatnot, and then you get back to the SEC, right? It's just whatever. Anyway, so the SEC is going to work with the Fed. That's just a given. The SEC is going to work with the Treasury. The Treasury works with the Fed. It all is tied together. So the Fed does not want short sellers going out there shorting banks. Now, what can they do? They could pull something like they did in 2008, where they say, hey, look, it's impossible. We're going to pass an emergency funding law that says it's impossible for short sellers to short financial institutions. They did that in 2008. Don't forget. What happens if they do that, though? What happens if they do that now, when only Silicon Valley Bank has gone under? That means the longs will say, hey, the SEC passes law. I wonder if my bank is in bad shape. Maybe I should get out of it. Maybe I should get out while I can. Maybe people will think, hey, if the SEC is protecting banks, which we thought were in good shape, to be in bad shape now, right? That's a bad sign. You don't want that, because that just basically tells depositors at banks, get your money out of the banks because, put it in something else because it may not be safe in the banks. It also tells longs, hey, sell my bank stocks now, because the only reason that they would be preventing the shorts from shorting, from shorting this bank is the bank's in trouble, right? They don't want that. So they don't want to do that, right? You don't want to give the game away. If you do that, people panic, and then, the longs panic, the depositors panic, money runs out of the bank. When there's a bank run, the bank loses liquidity. It's a mess, right? It's a royal freaking mess. And that's why the news media is reporting it as a very complex issue, complex story, liquidity problems, this, that, whatever. It's not that complex. But anyway, so that's what's being reported. It's being reported to basically confuse you, but make you think that you should have strong confidence in the banks, right? That's the deal. So the SEC knows that if they go out and say it is now illegal temporarily to short financial institutions like bank stocks, that's it, the long sell, right? What do you do? Well, let's say I was at the SEC. Okay. What would I do? I would say, well, you don't want to give the game away, but you do want to make lives uncomfortable for shorts who are possibly going to short bank stocks, right? So the Chinese have a saying. It's called, you kill a chicken to scare the monkeys. You kill a chicken to scare the monkeys. What does this mean? Of course, right? The idea is that you make an example of a few short sellers and tell them, hey, it's really not a good idea to be shorting stocks right now. And what better example do you have? What better example do you have than the short sellers who screwed up the whole MMTLP thing, right? Because quite frankly, FINRA doesn't want, FINRA gets out of jail free this way, right? FINRA doesn't have to admit that they did anything wrong, that they were colluding with the shorts, that they were colluding with short hedge funds. The short hedge, one one or more short hedge funds, will definitely go under. That's a given. But hey, that's better than the whole financial industry having a hiccup, not even collapse. I'm talking hiccup. Okay. Um, I don't know about you, but I think GTS is an expendable. It's an expendable sacrificial lamb if it means saving the banks or banking stocks from having a hiccup. Okay. So I'm sorry, GTS, but you're gonna have to take one for the team, and that's the way I see things happening, right? Ideally, this is what this is what the SEC should do. They should basically say, hey, look, you screwed up badly. Even though GTS may or may not be responsible for anything to do with banks, doesn't really matter. GTS needs to be a sacrificial lamb in order to save the rest of the banking industry, because you don't want to cause a panic in banking. You don't want to cause a panic in finance. Okay. You don't mind if you cause a panic in one or two short sellers, because quite frankly, no one cares about them. So, am I happy? I live in Silicon Valley. Am I happy about Silicon Valley Bank going under? No, I'm not. Of course not. Um, but let's face facts. Banks are not a financially aggressive institution, right? Banks go out of their way to play it safe for the most part. And Silicon Valley Bank, which is actually one of the safer banks around, has liquidity problems. Chances are there are other banks with liquidity problems, and shorts know this, and the SEC knows this, and the Federal Reserve knows this, which means the Treasury knows this, right? And I'm sure the Fed, who works with the Treasury, and together they talk to the SEC, they're saying, look, you got to sacrifice somebody. Sacrifice a short. It doesn't matter if it's a short that has anything to do with banks. We need to send a message. The message has to be that shorts, you better close your positions right now. We don't want you doing anything. Especially, we don't want you doing anything that messes with the financial industry and banks. This is it's the simplest thing in the world. And you know what? It doesn't even have, because they can basically say, hey, look, let's fix the MMTLP problem. And if they fix the MMTLP problem, what that means is that it sends an indirect message to shorts. Shorts will start getting the message. Hey, look, these guys went bankrupt because they shorted a pissy ant little wildcatting company out of West Texas. And you're thinking about shorting a major bank? You're thinking about shorting Wells Fargo or Bank of America or who knows what? Because you know what? Chances are they've got problems too, but you don't want to spread the word that, you don't want to go out of your way to protect the banks, because protecting the banks means they need protection. And if they need protection, they're in trouble in long spell, right? This is the best solution for the SEC, right? Go out and make a message. And it also sends a message to judges that, if they sent a message by backwater channels to some little judge in Florida, I don't know, maybe the one who's got the Rosa Twill case, and told him, it's perfectly fine if you were to call FINRA out for some issues, and just allow trading back, and let FINRA say that, hey, look, they made a mistake with this. There's no problem with financial industries in general, but we need to fix this one issue with MMTLP. But the other shorts will get the message. They should pull their positions on banking, and they should not short banks, because they will be taken out, and hopefully they'll be they'll get them. The ones who wouldn't get the message with this are so coked up that they have no idea what's going on in the world. But I guarantee you, they have at least some people with half a brain. I know it may not seem like it, but they have some people with at least half a brain out there who will say, look, it's time for us to take our winnings, take it off the table, and just get out of our position, because they don't want that. Now the other thing that's possible is, if banking goes down, let's say the banking goes down, what's going to happen? If banking goes down, then that means that there's a major depression and a recession. And do you think shorts are going to be very popular at that point in time for having crashed the financial system? Do you think Congress sees this? Congress may not see it, but their lobbyists see it, and their lobbyists include large financial institutions who will tell them that they will not be very popular for allowing banks to crash. And when banks crash, that crashes the economy. And that basically means that, yeah. So it's best to do as little as you can to solve the situation. Now, I was talking to some friends earlier today. They had an idea. Hey, look, they'll resolve the situation by just stopping quantitative tightening. They've been doing quantitative tightening now for a little bit. And if they just ease up on the quantitative tightening, that'll be enough. I don't think that's the case. Because the problem is that interest rates are still too high. So I think they'll have to go to quantitative easing. So once you go from tightening down to easing, you can't do it like willy-nilly. It's not going to have an effect immediately, but it will let people know that you're a little bit nervous and that you need to go down. And there's not that much further down they can go because they only started tightening a little bit. So it's better to cause some issues with shorts. And as a side benefit, if you get a bunch of shorts to go bankrupt, then stocks go up, some stocks go up, people start having money starts flowing back into the economy. Hey, maybe it's not a bad thing. So again, like I said, I'm kind of obsessed with MMTLP because I have a large position in MMTLP. You guys know this, not financial advice, not a financial advisor. It's nothing we can do right now anyway, because we're U3 halted. But, there've been rumors that the U3 halt will go away. I believe those rumors. I think they have to go away. I think they can't let this be. I think they've known for a while that they can't let this situation stay, and they know they need to get this situation resolved. The best way they can resolve it is by taking advantage of the current situation with the banking industry, right? That's the whole thing. So, so this way they don't have to admit that they were corrupt. They don't have to admit any of that stuff. They'll just say, hey, look, we needed to fix the system. I mean, we needed to, we needed to enforce our laws. And, unfortunately, some of these short hedge funds were violating the laws, and that will send a signal to other short hedge funds. All the short hedge funds are violating the laws. Who knows? It's very likely. Who knows? But again, not financial advice, not a financial advisor. I don't know if any of this stuff is true, but if that's the case, they send a message, and the message should be crystal clear to every single short seller out there. It's not a good time to be shorting, right? So I see a comment from Alan Kamansky. GTI is the next big squeeze. It's quite frankly, I think GTI has a lot going for it. I do. And I didn't know anything about GTI before the whole U3 halt thing and the fact that we had Ham Short Killer come along. And I started doing some investigation, and I think there could be something to go with GTI. My plan was something like, hey, I hope I want to get my MMTLP money. When I get that, I was going to put a bunch into GTI. Because quite frankly, I think Alan, you might have a point there with GTI. But GTI has already started moving. So it closed on Friday at $1.87. And I think the GTI people also know what's going on with the same situation. And I think GTI could run. How high it could go, I can't say. There are people who are saying $1,000 is easy. Could be. It's hard to say. So because of all that, and I don't know the GTI story in depth and in detail. I can't, again, I'm not a financial advisor, not financial advice, whatever. I threw what little money I had left at GTI because quite frankly, if GTI takes off, I'd like to make some money too. So, so that's the case with that. I will not be tracking GTI or doing videos about it because I'm not a GTI expert. For that, there's a guy called Ace in the Hole, I think. He does a really good job with that. And check out his videos. They're really good. Also, William, what was it? William Ferron. Let me see what the right thing is. He's on YouTube. He's a good guy. I believe his name is William something. William. Actually, all you got to do is you got to go in GTII, look that up on YouTube. William Ferron, there you go. William P. Ferron, check him out. He did a show with Ham Short Killer on Friday, and I think he had some good things to say about GTI. So, ah, ooh, hang on. We got some, uh, we got some we got something weird going on. Give me 1 second. Okay, good. Uh, testing. Okay, echo's gone. Ah, so yeah, check out William P. Frond and Ace in the Hole. Oh, shit. Okay, I see what's going on. Killed that. Okay. So check out William P. Frond and Ace in the Hole. They are the GTI experts. I think GTI will have a run. The only question is, will it be before or after MMTLP? If MMTLP takes off, I'm definitely going to be putting a ton of money into not most of my money, a small portion, which will be a large payout into GTII and watch that thing take off as well too. What about MMAT? Hell yeah. um, MMAT is dirt cheap right now. Okay. Um, and it's dirt cheap because shorts have been attacking it, right? That's the whole thing. So if we look at finance.yahoo.com, let's do a quick check on MMAT. I believe it was under $1 last I saw. I never thought I'd be able to get it for under $1. But yeah, I'll definitely be throwing money. Again, not financial advice, not a financial advisor. Oh yeah, 50 cents. I'd definitely be throwing a ton of money at MMAT. And I don't think I'd be the only person throwing money at MMAT at that point, right? Because you got all these MMTLP basically winners. And the amount of payout on that is huge. If we look at the market cap of MMAT, the total market cap, all the shares out there, $190 million. Okay. What does that mean? That means if there are 190 people out there, let's say that there are 65,000 shareholders in MMTLP. If 190 of them throw 1 million at it, you've basically doubled the market cap, doubled it, right? Now there's again, there's a whole bunch of shorts out there, but it doesn't take a lot of money to be thrown at MMAT to cause it to go directional. Once it goes directional, the shorts get overrun, and then MMAT takes off like crazy. So yeah, MMAT will definitely go off because it doesn't take that much, right? And quite frankly, I would want to hold some MMAT just as a thank you for what George Palikaris did in terms of getting the whole thing spun out, right? It took a fair amount of work. It took a fair amount of time. And I would just do it just to say thank you. And even taking, like 5%, 10, I would probably be taking at least 10% of my, again, not financial advice, not financial advisor, but I personally, I'm going to be taking about, I don't know, between 5 to 10% and throwing it right at MMAT. I'd definitely be throwing another 5 or 10%. Well, I'd probably be throwing 5% or less actually at GTII, but GTII is going to go to 1,000. So if it does that, and I took, like $1 million and you throw it at GTI and it goes to 1,000, what does that mean? That means you make $1 billion. $1 billion, right? It's crazy. It's crazy. Well, okay, it's not $1 billion, $500 million. You make $500 million, okay, with a $1 million investment, right? So of course I'm going to throw some money at GTI. It's stupid money. It's crazy money. So that's my plan at least, right? Star Warrior, what is GTII? Check out Ace in the Hole. He's got Ace in the Hole's video channel. He's got a good recap on it. GTII is it's a play that Ham Short Killer brought to my attention. Again, I wouldn't know what GTII is. It's a short squeeze play, but Ham Short Killer basically said there's something like 150 million shares that were issued, and there's at least 300 million shares that are out there, and they recently just announced a special dividend of that, and they didn't give the date. They said, hey, we're going to do a special dividend, 1 share for every 10 shares. They announced this, I believe, on Friday or something like that. And shorts are underwater on that, and they're in about as bad a shape as you can imagine, right? And they probably don't have a friend at FINRA right now. And certainly, I think after FINRA pulled the U3 halt on MMTLP, I don't think we're going to see FINRA pulling a bunch of U3 halts. Because that would be kind of, that would not be a good idea for FINRA. Let's just say, okay? So let's see what's going on. NBH management are starting to ramp up PR. Something is brewing. Yeah. And I think NBH management does a good job. So thanks, FlexHack, Star Wars. Let's see. Josh Happy, I agree. Stony Bones said GTI is unicorn. Gorka Crookie, do you think MMTLP will trade again? Yeah, I think MMTLP will trade again. I think they're going to pull back time one way or the other, whether it's FINRA, whether it's the SEC, whether it's a court that decides it, but it's going to go back and it's going to trade again. That's the most likely scenario. And it's the most likely scenario that will cause enough heartache for shorts that the relevant governmental entities in the United States will be very happy with the result, because it means that they will have saved the financial industry. Okay. They will have prevented further future runs on banks. Now, if you guys, I mean, there were people waiting outside of Silicon Valley Bank in the Menlo Park branch and in various branches to try to get their money out. Right? If you had an idea about the situation, you wanted to wire transfer your money out, you might think, hey, this is the quickest way to get my money out of the bank. It didn't happen, right? When the bank's in trouble, the wire transfers stop working, and your wire transfer did not go through, and it's in pending situation. Pending. It means your money is basically locked up. Okay. So, what's the other thing about Silicon Valley Bank? It actually, just the fact that there's a bank failure, that FDIC only insures up to $250,000 per account. I mean, I'm sorry, per individual. Per individual. That means that if you have $1 million in Silicon Valley Bank, you are only guaranteed to get back $250,000. You might have 75% loss by keeping your money in the bank. Some people might start thinking about crypto and various other things where wire transfers are never prevented. Crypto, it just shows you the power of crypto, right? You can move crypto around, and it's not in a bank; you're your own bank. So it's something to think about. It's certainly something to think about. Yes, if MMTLP returns, I made a fair amount of money in crypto, and I will put a fair amount of money back into crypto, because I think crypto will be taking off as well too. Alpine, the prime broker. Okay, Stony Bone says Alpine, the prime broker, is significantly short on GTII, over-leveraged. The FBI is currently investigating. They have till March 29th to make the books correct. That is correct. That is, as far as I know, there was a. So this is part of the reason that I decided to go into GTII with what little cash I had left, or what little cash I found. So what happens is that GTII was I'm sorry, not GTII. Alpine is the prime broker, and they were recently fined a tiny amount of money. I think it was $2.5 million or something, because they had an overly large short position in GTII. Basically, they're told, hey, look, we're giving you a fine because you got a concentrated short position in GTI. Either get rid of it or pay the fine or whatever. It's $2.5 million, and it should have been the cost of doing business to Alpine, but it wasn't. Alpine comes back, and Alpine says, we can't pay that because we don't have $2.5 million. It's like, what? The prime broker cannot afford to pay the fine. They can't afford to pay the cost of doing business. But that means they're in trouble, and that means GTI is in trouble. Now, this was on an official SEC doc. It wasn't an SEC document. It was an NSCC document, because it was a problem with leverage, right? So they ran these, what do you call it? They ran these tests on all the brokers, right? And they're stress tests, and they're there to make sure your broker can afford to deal with market crashes and market conditions. And when they ran the stress tests on Alpine, they said, oh, well, you got a problem over here with GTII. There's a big concentrated short position in here. If anything goes wrong with GTII, Alpine, you're in major trouble and you'll go bust. Get rid of the concentrated short position, spread it out, who knows, whatever. So Alpine says, okay, whatever. And months go by, and they said, we can't afford to pay it. It's like, what? We can't afford to pay it. That's what they said, right? And then they said, well, so the SEC comes back and it says, look, we'll give you till March 29th to pay it. March 29, the end of the month. So Alpine has to come up with an amount of money. It's a puny amount of money for a broker to pay their, to pay for their concentrated short position in GTII. They had trouble coming up with that, which also means that they have trouble with friends, right? All these guys with shorts and all that, they need friends to loan them money in case they are in massive financial problems. Alpine has massive financial problems. They're the prime broker for the shorts of GTII. So that's why I figured, okay, it can't hurt to throw some money at GTII. So I did, okay, and that'll hopefully tide me over until MMTLP pays out. But again, MMTLP, FINRA should never have done anything with regard to this U3 halt. This was just ludicrous. It's beyond ludicrous. That's why I was so pissed off, because it's the most absurd thing on the planet. Anyway, so I expect that GTII will do very well as a result of that, and Alpine will be another sacrificial lamb to the slaughterhouse. Okay, let's see what else goes. I'm trying to keep up with my chats over here. Didn't happen to Lehman Brothers, and it didn't change. Oh, so I saw a really interesting tweet by, who was it? I retweeted it. It was really cool. It was by, it's a retweet that I did. Let me see. It was by Kristen Shaughnessy. And Kristen Shaughnessy, check her out on Twitter, K Shaughnessy 2. So Kristen Shaughnessy says she had a nice video from Lehman Brothers, and I guess I could play the Lehman. Let me see. I guess I could play the Lehman Brothers clip. I think it'll probably go through. See what happens if I bring that. Let me just play what I can. You guys will probably hear it. I don't know how to get video yet.
About the SEC. Yes. Because I had said in my written testimony.
Let me know if you can hear that.
That I thought the overall regulatory system had to be redone. But
so you don't agree that they failed?
But specifically to the SEC.
So
we had extensive dealings with the SEC. They actually had dedicated and knowledgeable people actually in our firm overseeing a number of our daily activities.
Let me just forward this because he's taking a long time.
Entity.
So here it goes.
Spinco was.
So they came up with an idea called Spinco.
Short selling.
Okay, let me back up.
Our firm went to them specifically talking about naked short selling. They were constructive and positive. We went to them with an idea of creating something that we call Spinco.
Spinco.
Spinco was a new independent entity into which Lehman would place some number of commercial real estate assets along.
So basically, Spinco is Lehman Brothers was planning to spin out a company called Spinco, which has commercial assets and some cash. Create a new company, spin it out, and provide it as a dividend. Sound familiar? So this Lehman guy, so I think this is a solution that works against short sellers. So this Lehman guy, he Richard Fuld, I believe it is. He came up with this idea. He ran it by the SEC. The SEC said, "Yeah, it's a good idea." Again, they were trying to save his company, Lehman Brothers, right? But in the end, Lehman Brothers did not succeed. Lehman Brothers got bought, and they went, they basically went bankrupt and were bought out for pennies on the dollar. So he failed, but he had a good idea, and this idea is it's interesting. He ran out of time as he was talking to Congress about this. Ran out of time. What does that say? So I think this is a pretty good idea to deal with short selling. Okay, so I thought MMTLP was the first that this could happen. It happened apparently with Lehman. They didn't have time enough to execute their plan. That was the issue. They didn't have time to execute their plan. So let me go back to the chat. Let's see. About us. TD suspended. Contagion from SVB. Contagion from SVB will be large due to the tech sector. Big tech will be fine though. Many startups are ruined here. Crypto crash too from Silvergate bank crash. Yes, there's Silvergate that's going on. That's the other thing. Silvergate was a crypto bank, of course. If I were a crypto guy, if I were a big time crypto guy, right? If I had a ton of money, I would consider buying SVB really cheap if I could, and just use that as a targeting vehicle for to get crypto moving. Anyway, SVB is the third major bank fall in the U.S. and the second largest besides the 2008 fail. True. Thank you, Ted. Tremendous. Tax docs from Fidelity are still not sent to customers with MMTLP stating in progress. Check back 3/15/2023 for the updated availability. Thank you, Ted Tremendous, for stating that. I did not check my tax docs because I've been avoiding doing my taxes. I'm a procrastinator. And yes, I want MMTLP to be taken care of way before any of this tax crap happens. Okay. Ted Tremendous also says the SEC has as much financial insight as a bag of wet hair. Yes, they do, but they get told what to do. Gary Gensler is not an idiot. Is not an idiot either. He ran CFTC, where he also presided over some let's just say non-above board activity. I think there were some issues with some metals fund and short hedge and shorts on metals funds, and the manipulation of metals pricing, specifically with metals. I'm talking gold and silver. That they're the only two metals that matter as far as the CFTC is. Gary Gensler came from the CFTC before, and that's where that's going. So he knows how the game is played. Gary Gensler gave up a multi-$100 million a year position at a major financial institution out of the goodness of his heart because he's a patriot, and he joined the CFTC to run the CFTC and taking a civil servant's salary because he's such a great guy. He gave all that up because he loves the American people, and it was out of patriotism. So he did that. And, along the way, there were some issues with metals price manipulation that was put forth before Gary Gensler. And I believe he said, we need to do a 7-year study. And they did a large study, after which, and during their study, it's an investigation in progress. Because it's an investigation in progress, that means they can't comment. So he couldn't comment. It's an investigation in progress. So during that time, the CFTC could not make any comments on whether the price of metals was being manipulated. After 7 years went by, they said, we did our study and turned out it's not being manipulated. Well, that's nice to know. Took a 7-year study to find out it's not manipulated, right? Okay. And at some point in time later, the DOJ found the price of metals was being manipulated. And granted, there was no jail time served, but there was a fair number of fines being paid as a result of that. And it was clear that the price of metals was being manipulated at that time. Anyway, that's where Gary Gensler comes from. He runs the SEC right now. Do I think we should get rid of Gary Gensler? Well, what's the alternative? Who's number 2 in charge? The number 2 person is way worse. So better the devil you know than the devil you don't know, because the devil you don't know could be way, way worse. So anyway, Gary Gensler is, that's my take on him. Gary Gensler will do what it takes to maintain the status quo. The whole job of government, I believe, is to maintain the status quo. They're there to prevent revolution. That's the purpose of government, right? The purpose of government is not to serve their population or whatever. It's to maintain the status quo and prevent revolution. because government remains in power as long as there's no revolution. That's the first part. Second part is, how does government get paid? By whoever's in charge. That means maintaining status quo, right? So that's the purpose of government. Don't let anyone kid you about anything else. Your social studies classes that say whatever else they say is, that's a nice it's a nice fairy tale for the kids. Okay. But allowing short hedge funds to take out banks is not maintaining the status quo. Allowing short hedge funds to take out banks is a problem. And Gary Gensler will, I'm sure, be very, very, he'll make sure that the short hedge funds would get the message not to start shorting banks. And if it requires killing a few sacrificial lambs, if it requires doing a little bit of, of sacrifice along the way, which, by the way, allows him to say, hey, look, we are a corruption-free society. Look, we took out these bad guys who were short selling and causing problems and doing illegal things. See, that's an example. They can go off and say that. That's pretty good. So anyway, so thank you, Ted Tremendous, for your comments there. Tax docs from Fidelity. Okay, let's see. BTW brand, don't really care how many guaranteed gainers there are out there. I'm not putting any dollars anywhere near the current problems until the current problems are handled. I agree with you. That's basically why I didn't buy GTI for a long time. And I don't know if I got a good price or not. I bought GTI somewhere around the $1.60 to $1.80 range, right? Last week I figured, hey, look, it might do something. But again, I'm not an expert on it. And I said, hey, I could stand to make some quick money, and I don't know how long MMTLP will last. So that was my situation. I'm not recommending anything. Of course, I never recommend anything. But again, I'm not a financial advisor, not financial advice. But I agree with you, BTW brand. To me, they have to solve the MMTLP problem. It's a given. It's a given. And the only question, and now they're given an opportunity to solve it in the least painful way possible, while showing that they uphold the rule of law. So go for it. Do what needs to be done. BTW, it's all over Twitter. It has been for near 2 weeks. GTI. Not sure what you're talking about, whether it's GTI or Silicon Valley Bank. Yes, it's all over Twitter. Twitter is where you go to for news, because right now it's one of the few places that you can get raw, unadulterated info from. Check out Twitter. I'm pro Twitter. I use Twitter. The problem I have with the other sources like Reddit is that they are central points of focus that you can target on Reddit. So moderators on Reddit can influence where the discussion goes, and if anyone can influence where the discussion goes, it's a central point of attack, and that means moderators can be attacked or moderators can be influenced or something, and then you change the discussion, right? So I don't like Reddit for that. Twitter is distributed across everybody. Everyone has an equal voice. Just basically say what you want to say on Twitter, and there you go. That's why I like Twitter. Twitter is cool. Okay. Hey, market moves with has Hindenburg research been proven as a false short attack reporting company for I have no idea what's going on with Hindenburg research. Why don't you let people know about it? Again, I don't know about Hindenburg research right now. Christine Noto says, in my opinion, what do you think GTI? I have no idea. It could reach. I have no idea. Again, what was it? Ace in the Hole says that that there's like an 80%. It's like a 90% probability. He said it would reach about 100, and then maybe a 75% probability it would reach over 1,000. But again, not financial advice. Not a financial advisor. It's not even my opinion. I think I heard Ace in the Hole or William P. Ferrand say that it's a crapshoot. Who knows? It could go very, very high, which is why I bought some. BTW brand. It's okay. It's a tax thing. Says they knew in 2000. Mr. David 5337. But they knew this in 2008, and it's still. And it's 2023. They're still doing it. I think they're trying to solve this where it works for both sides, shorts and longs. Yeah, the situation from 2008 has not changed that much. The problems of 2008 still exist, but they've been hidden for the most part. And right now we have problems of we have a couple of problems. So, what happened in 2008? 2008, we had the mortgage-backed securities crisis, right? Price of housing was falling like crazy. It's in free fall, caused a liquidity crisis with banks, etc. The economy was grinding to a halt. And that's basically what was happening. How did I think they were going to solve it? I figured they would just cause rampant, massive inflation because that would be a natural thing to do. What do we have today? It's been 20 years and we have enough inflation that the prices from 2008 are fully justified today. And as long as inflation keeps going, then inflation may offset the falling, depreciating values of housing, right? So it's 6 of one, half dozen of the other. So, who knows? Do we want inflation? Inflation is problematic, right? And what inflation does is inflation really disproportionately hurts the working poor. Why? Because because the cost of living for them goes up significantly with inflation. They have to buy fuel, meaning they have to buy gasoline, they have to pay electric bills, and they have to buy food at the very minimum, and they have to pay rent. Okay, rent, food, fuel, gasoline. Okay. What happens if you're not the working poor? If you have a lot of spare income, you're paying more for those same items, right? But you don't have to spend money on other things if you don't want to. And those items make up a smaller and smaller portion of your income. Well, so what happens is that if you're not poor, you spend less money. If you're poor, you spend the same amount of money, but you make if you're poor, you spend more money, but you're still making the same amount of money because you're not getting a salary increase. If you're not poor, if you're middle class and above, if you're middle class, you're choosing not to spend money. You're choosing not to take your vacations, right? If you're rich, it doesn't affect you that much at all, to be honest. If you're rich, you're like, okay, well, I'm not going to buy a second home. I'm not going to buy a third home. Maybe I'm not going to buy these stocks. Maybe I'm going to cut back on buying stocks, right? So, but inflation disproportionately hurts the working poor, right? But it does cause, in general, the whole economy to slow down. But if you're wealthy, you want to protect your assets, and if in light of inflation means that you shouldn't keep your money in the bank because that dollar is depreciating in value continually. So you have to put your money into assets that will not depreciate. So you can put your money into either housing or you can put your money into stocks. Chances are you'll be better off putting your money into stocks because stocks will rise with and keep with the pace of inflation. Your housing market may or may not, depending on where that goes. So right now that's the possibility of inflation. Okay, Ted Tremendous. Do I think there will be another bailout for SVB? I think SVB itself is big enough that they can do a bailout. So SVB is, I don't know, $150 billion, something like that, right? FDIC, can they cover it at $250,000 per individual? Yeah, sure, not a problem. So that means that if you're a large company that has $10 million, you're down to $250,000 guaranteed. That's you're going to want to pull your money out, right? Or you're going to take a massive loss there. Wall Street heckler, I guess. It sounds like wishful thinking, Tony. Well, it could be wishful thinking. Who knows? If I were in charge, that's what I'd do because it's a perfect opportunity. Right? Why look a gift horse in the mouth, right? You can solve a couple problems. You can solve the problem of 65,000 people out there saying, hey, the market's corrupt. Look over here. You can see how corrupt it is by looking at what happened with the U3 halt and MMTLP. These are people who are protesting right outside your casino, saying the casino is rigged, the game is rigged, get your money out. Same time, you got banks failing, where if people kept their money in the bank, you know what? They lost their money. So in order to convince the rest of the world the casino is not rigged, it's safe to bring your money into the U.S., you kill a few chickens, you solve the MMTLP problem, right? That's the perfect excuse, right? BTW brand. Didn't Dodd-Frank set its so shorting a distressed U.S. bank is off limits? Yes, it did. There was a special law that took place in 2008 that says you cannot go off and short a financial institution, but it only happened during that one point in time. They took it off the books. But what happens when you say you cannot short a financial institution? What happens? What happens is that, the shorts don't short anymore. The longs sell because they're like, why should I ride a stock that's going down? I'll just sell it now and I'll sell it now while I can and pick it up sometime later on, right? That's the problem of just stopping the short side. You get the longs who will actually sell. The longs that sell are worse. Okay. Kevin Billner, am I expecting NextBridge Hydrocarbons to answer the question put forward by people responding to Jennifer's tweets? What can they discuss? What can they discuss in your opinion? NextBridge is not going to talk too much about what's going on with shorts and whatnot, because their current CEO is a lawyer, and he's going to want to do things in the most conservative way possible. But fortunately, he doesn't need to say or do much of anything right now. We have John Berta. John Berta is an ex-CEO of Torchlight. He knows exactly what's going on, and he's together. We have Flamethrower. Flamethrower can do more than anything that needs to be done. Well, that allows the CEO of NextBridge to disregard the shorts for the most part, right? So that's basically what's going on. So that's why having MMTLP is, again, even though we're U3 halted, we're in the best possible shape. I mean, we got John Berta, we got Flamethrower, we got three friggin' lawsuits going on, and the SEC knows that it's now time to crack down on short sellers. You need to send a message, okay? BTW brand Kevin, in my opinion, the only question they should ask NBH is what their plans for the next 5 years are. Yes, I agree completely. Ask them what the plans for the next 5 years is. So all the NextBridge Hydrocarbons has to do is, drill more wells in the area, and whether or not they decide to go into production and whether or not they decide to make a deal with a major oil producer is the main thing they need to care about, right? Okay. Kevin Billner, BTW brand. My question is selling the asset is selling the assets the number one priority, and not development of the assets? Who knows? Again, ask them for their 5-year plan. BTW brand says that will tell you what their true focus is. Of course, they're waiting 5 years for the sale prices to rise, or they're working towards becoming a producer. Yeah, both situations are actually very, very positive for NextBridge Hydrocarbons, right? I mean, they're positive in so many different ways. If you're short, you're screwed one way or the other, and you're still paying short borrow fees because your short position has not been closed, which means there are short positions in NextBridge Hydrocarbons, which is a private company, which the SEC knows that it doesn't want to be involved with, because shorting a private company should not be possible in the United States of America, because our financial systems do not allow you to short somebody that you do not like. Okay. So I'm going to move on. Thank you, BTW brand. You've been answering a lot of questions in the chat, so you're doing a good job. Ted Tremendous, do you go back in time and you have the option to not buy MMTLP? This means you don't know what you know now. Would you do it? Oh, of course. Definitely. I would still buy MMTLP. Yeah. But if I could go back in time, I would probably, if you can go back in time, okay, and you knew what you knew now, wouldn't you sell at the peak and then buy it back at $3? So if I could go back in time, I would sell at 12, and I would buy 10 times the amount at $2.89 or $2.90, right? And still have a large short position while taking out a bunch of cash. So yeah, that's what I would do. But again, if I didn't have that option to do that, would I want to buy MMTLP? Yeah, of course. Yeah, right. Because everything that I knew back then is everything I could have known. And I really wasn't expecting FINRA to act like an imbecile. And I'm sure FINRA wasn't expecting FINRA to act like an imbecile, because it's not, again, it's one of two things. It's either incompetence or corruption, possibly both. And I'm thinking in this case it's both. So FINRA, it's a bit much. BTW brand, Ted, he would. Just said so. Yes, I did. I agree. Yeah, I would. Mortgage the house on 80 cents. On 80 cents. What if I could go back in time? What would I do? I would short Silicon Valley Bank, of course. No. Oh man. Let's see. Mortgage the house on 80-cent shares, sell at 12. Yeah. Buy back at 3. Heck yeah. Yeah, that's exactly right. So that should be the answer for anyone who is honest and says if I could go back in time. Yeah, you know what the prices are. But if I didn't know what the prices were, I would still do the same damn thing, right? I bought a large position sometime around April of 2022 of MMTLP because I came into some cash and I said I need to throw some cash somewhere where it's safe. So I bought MMTLP. It was the safest damn thing on the planet. And that meant I got in around $1.40 to $1.80, right? Even after the massive drop in price to $2.90, still a hell of a lot more than what I paid for it. So at $1.40, yeah, sure. That's a whole thing, right? So I said to myself way back around March, and I you got my videos back then, of 2022, of course, right? So I said to myself back then, hey, look, what's the worst that can happen? The worst that can happen is it goes to zero, but it's not going to do that. Why do I know it's not going to do that? Because I looked at the stock from the history of its trading. I looked at the full history, which was all the way back till October of the previous year, and it was flat as a rock and stable. And no stock can be that flat and stable unless there's market manipulation that keeps it stable. But why would a market manipulator want to keep it stable? They don't. They wanted the price to collapse. They wanted you to sell their shares to them, but that didn't happen. The market manipulators got it wrong. We wound up buying the shares. Prices were going up, so they had to do whatever they could to bring the stock price back down, and they kept it stable for the longest time. So given all that information that I had in March, I said to myself, well, this is the most stable thing on the planet. Worst case scenario, maybe I double, triple, quadruple my money. And of course, at $1.40, that happened. Again, I had to go through months and months and months, almost a year, right? Whatever. But it took off, of course, at that point. So yeah. Do I think Dave Lauer can help? It seems every time he can actually help our movement, he goes silent during the interview. Is a member of a FINRA committee. BTW Brand says, was she fired or did she get a package? This is about someone else, I think. I don't know. Oh, Jessica lady. Was she fired or did she get it? We don't know. What do I think about Dave Lauer? I don't know what I think about Dave Lauer, to be honest. Willing to give people the benefit of the doubt. Dave Lauer, I think, is a what's the best word to say? I think Dave Lauer serves the interest of the powers that be, which means he serves to maintain the status quo. What does that mean? That means whoever's rich should be rich. With Dave Lauer being there, he will serve at the behest of whoever can pay him, and that's the status quo. So Dave Lauer, naturally, when he was first asked about FINRA, he gave the immediate response, I think FINRA is right because of blah, 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 whatever. So he supported FINRA 100% of the way, right? Then he was presented with overwhelming evidence that FINRA was freaking corrupt. And he said, oh, shit. Okay, what can I do? Well, these guys have overwhelming evidence. They know their shit. I can't pull the wool over their eyes. I might as well agree with them. So he did. Then he gets a chance to go on Jon Stewart, in which case he does a 180-degree flip. Why? Why does he do the 180-degree flip? No one can say. I can't say. I don't know. Again, my opinion only. I think that he basically got the word that, hey, look, if you support the status quo, you'll make more money. And so he decided to support the status quo, which means he supported FINRA's actions, claiming ignorance, thinking that he could, make more money in the future by being an expert in the field, right? And then he gets a lot of pushback, which he was not expecting. That says, "Hey, look, what the frick is going on?" Sorry, excuse the language. What the frick is going on? You know what was going on. We told you about it. Rosa Twill told you about it. At that point, he's like, "Oh, yeah, I was talking to millions of people, so I will respond back on Twitter to the few thousand people who might follow me on Twitter and tell them they were right." And so he did. What's he going to do in the future? I have no idea. Is he someone I trust? I think he serves the status quo, whatever that is. I trust him to serve the status quo. Would I trust him with my money? Probably not. Do I think he's a bad guy? I don't know. I hold opinion on Dave Lauer. If you're willing to forgive him and forget what he said and take him in, I think maybe you're right. Who knows? I think whoever's in charge, however this plays out in the end, Dave Lauer will support that. You will say, the SEC was right. FINRA was right to say they were wrong. That's probably what's going to happen, right? So, okay. What do I think about Wes Christensen handling MMTLP? I think he knows what the frick he's doing. I think he's quiet. I think he, yeah. So, yeah, there's rumors that's going on that, of course, Congress is aware of the situation and that they're going to be, and that they're looking into it, and that government agencies are aware of the situation and they're looking into it. And I think that they're looking into it even more now, given the plight of SVB. So that's the current situation. John Wysikowski. Nope, Dave's a bad guy. Yeah, Dave's a guy who serves his own self-interest. That's it. That's the way I look at it. Yeah, that's the only way I can put it. I don't know. I have a personality problem. I am an idealist. I like to. So part of my personality problem is I have a very poor memory. So I'm very bad at lying. So I like to speak the truth because I can't keep track of lies. It's too stupid. So I tend to speak the truth, and I'm able to tell who's lying, of course, because of that. Because if you speak the truth long enough, you can tell who's lying. It's pretty easy. Dave Lauer is he serves himself. Yeah, it's pretty common. By speaking the truth, I mean I will tell you what I firmly believe. I won't be playing you because I get nothing for playing you. And it's too much work and too much trouble to try to play anybody. So I can make more money on my own. This is why I don't monetize YouTube, right? Because I believe I can make way more money with MMTLP than I could make with YouTube. What's the point? What's the point? Right. Again, GTI, I think I can make way more money with that than YouTube. But I do YouTube because, quite frankly, it's fun, and I didn't realize people would like to hear what I have to say, and if I can spread the word about what I believe to be true, it's good for my soul. You can't say I didn't let you know. So I can look back, if ever I have to, come before the pearly gates or whatever, they say, "What did you do in life?" Well, I try to help a bunch of people to know what's going on in the world and hopefully make their life a little bit better. So yeah. Christopher Stedman said, "Aloha, Tony. Hey, you're in Hawaii. Aloha to you. Regarding Rosa's case, is there a timeline for ruling by the judge?" I think the judge should have ruled by now. I think he's basically been trying to stall for as long as possible because he didn't know what to do, and I think he will get his marching orders soon that it'll be okay to sacrifice FINRA in a way that says, let's see what's going on, and result in the short sellers having their money taken away from them, because we need to sacrifice a few short sellers at this point in time. So, Jerry Lee, my father is scared because I transferred his 400,000 401k to MMTLP, and now it says zero value. He is scared, but I am not. Rosa will transfer the wealth. I understand it's hard and it's rough. Yeah, it's rough because it says zero value. But the fact of the matter is you're owed a debt. Your father is owed a debt, and we're all owed a debt. And that debt is for NextBridge Hydrocarbons shares. And they can't deliver those NextBridge Hydrocarbon shares. So to me, that debt, which is marked on the books as zero value, has an infinite value, right? That's the whole thing. So the way that numbers are played in the accounting game, they can't put infinite values. They can't put undetermined values. What happens when you divide a number by zero? Do you get infinity? Do you get a number? No, you don't actually. You get what's an undefined value, right? And it's indeterminate is the thing, right? Because the number that you're dividing by zero could itself be an infinite number. So if you're dividing infinity by zero, It could be an infinite number. It could be zero. It could be anywhere in between. It could be negative infinity, right? And anywhere in between. So that's called limit theorem, and there's a whole school of mathematics based upon limit theory, and that's where Isaac Newton comes in, and he invented calculus. It could be argued that Leibniz invented calculus. They both simultaneously invented calculus. The thing is, Newton kept it secret. Newton used calculus and came up with a whole bunch of answers that he got from using calculus, and didn't tell anyone. And he said, it's obvious that this is the answer. So, of course, he looks like a genius. Leibniz invented calculus, and he wrote a paper on it. And when Newton saw the paper, he said, oh, no, wait, I invented that first. And I think he did invent it first. He just didn't disclose it to the public. The thing about Leibniz is we all use Leibniz notation. If you do calculus today, you use d dx, d divided by dx, right? And that is Leibniz notations. And it's far more indicative of what's going on than Newton's notation, which is a tick mark in a superscript. So in either case, it says zero value because computers can't deal with indeterminate values easily. So don't be scared. The money's, I mean, the debt of Nextbridge Hydrocarbons is still there. I mean, my stuff says zero value too. And I was pissed off. You know, if you watch my videos, you know I was pissed off for every single day that thing happened. I'm still pissed off. I've not stopped being pissed off. Every single one of my videos has been about MMTLP because that's how pissed off I am. There's other things happening in the world, but I don't give a flying F because they need to resolve the MMTLP thing. Should your father be scared? There's no point being scared. The situation will be taken care of because it has to be taken care of. The only thing I can say is, yeah, I believe that the situation will be taken care of, because to not take care of the situation means a $30 trillion problem. And the $30 trillion problem is the stock market. And if the stock market is shown to be corrupt, then people take their money out. And if people take, because you can put your money elsewhere, right? You can buy real estate. You can put your money in other stocks, in other markets that might be less corrupt, right? So you don't deal with corrupt markets. You take your money out. The whole reason that you have agencies that, you know, will make sure the market is not corrupt and that they go after bad actors is so that people will feel free to put their money into the markets, and that allows the markets to go to much, much higher values. The casinos make a ton of money in Vegas and in the places where it's legal because they know there's no crime there. Why? Because people who run the casinos cannot afford for people to worry about being mugged in the streets with their winnings. If you commit a crime near a casino, the casino owners will take care of you. Okay, it's kind of like the what was it? The Mexican cartels, right? They're everyone heard the story, right, about the people who they kidnapped and abducted some Americans in Mexico, right? And this caused a major public outcry. What happened? The Mexican cartel owners said, "Hey, look, we can't afford this. We actually have a business that we run with the United States where we bring illegal drugs into the country, and we need them to leave us alone for the most part so we can do this. And if you cause a massive PR nightmare where they're going to crack down on that, they're going to crack down on our source of income, it's far better to get rid of these idiots who abducted these Americans and give them up." So what do? They captured the people who did this, wrapped up their hands with tie wrap, stripped them naked, and presented them to the U.S. Embassy and said, "Hey, look, these are the guys who abducted the Americans. Do with them what you will. We don't give a flying F. Leave us alone so that we can work with your country and bring illegal drugs into your country as you so desire, because that keeps prices. We know you want the drugs because it keeps the prices are high and it's a good business. We will do what it takes to make sure that business is maintained." So yeah, don't cause a PR nightmare for the drug dealers or the whole Sinaloa cartel. They will fix their problem to make sure that they can do business as usual. Okay. What's next? John, it may sound like I'm a bit cynical. I am cynical. John Wachowski says, "We'll get our money." Asthmatic eventually. Yes, we'll get our money. That's for sure. I believe that. Less need for MMTLP to land if they open up Alaska to more drilling as requested. Keep that in mind. Yeah, I thought about that. There's a ton of oil in Alaska, and yeah, they could drill for oil in Alaska, but Alaska's cold. It's cold. Why do I care if it's cold? The ground is cold. People have to be paid a hell of a lot of money to work in Alaska. People do not get paid to work that. People get paid a good income, but it's nothing like Alaskan income for you to drill for oil in Texas. Again, you're drilling for oil in West Texas. It's it's on land. It's not offshore oil. It's not out in the middle of nowhere. It's 40 miles out in the middle of nowhere. Okay, El Paso is a major city. It's close by. You couldn't ask for a better place to drill for oil. It's a lot better than Alaska. So yeah, I would rather drill for oil in the Oro Grande Basin near El Paso than in Alaska. And yeah, Historic Times, 2008 Times. Christine Noto, we appreciate you, heart. Thank you, Christine Noto. BTW brand, just part of the cycle. True. John Wachowski, I don't think you're reading it right, Christine Noto. Oh, I don't know what Christine is saying. Don't know what you guys are saying there. Let's see. Okay, thank you, John. Okay, great. BTW brand, typos are a thing when typing out Nextbridge hydrocarbons, but that's normal. Yes, it's easy to accidentally type Nextbridge. Yeah, it's in terms of wording, it's yeah. It would be simpler if they just named their company NBH, right, and just made. It would be so much easier. I'm not into long names. Ted Tremendous, I transferred a small number of shares to AST. Seemed to work. I still need to call to make sure they're not warrants. The rest of it I keep with my broker in case trading resumes. Yeah, that's a really good idea, Ted. I think you're doing what's best for you, and I think that's an excellent plan. Again, not financial advice, not a financial advisor. The reason to keep some shares there is because you know that your shares are safe there. The reason to keep shares at your broker is because if trading resumes, then you can take advantage of the super high prices. So that's that. Let's see. Kevin Billner, in my opinion, Tony, what will be the first domino to fall? A court case win? I'm not sure. Any of them could. But the fact that they're all going on at the same time is great. If you saw my last video, it's about odds. The odds are very good. There's multiple things happening. You got 3 court cases happening right now. You got the SEC and multiple agencies being interested. You got Congress being interested right now. And now you got Silicon Valley Bank happening, which means that the government is going to want to send a message to short sellers. Any one of those things can cause MMTLP to become corrected. Okay. So the odds are pretty good as far as I'm concerned. I don't know what the first thing to fall was. Okay. Permafrost is killer in Alaska for drilling. Exactly. Kevin Billner. Kevin, wait to see what happens the Monday morning. Yeah, Monday morning is going to be very interesting. Next week is going to be very interesting. Keep an eye out. You never know what can happen. If this thing happens, it can happen very quickly. And it will be something to tell your grandkids about. Fee rhymes with AMC. Are my comments hidden? No. Can you say what you said, and I will talk about them. The comments go by pretty fast, so that's why I may not get to every comment. BTW brand. Okay, John Wachowski says, Wachowski, sorry if I'm munging your name, says 160 watching, only 68 likes. I think almost 100 of you should click the like button. Yeah, go ahead. Cool. I just wanted to get the word out. This was the fastest way I could get the word out. I think that SVB is I think the SVB thing that's happening is good for MMTLP. I think it's bad for short sellers in general. And I think it's good to know about, and it's something to keep an eye on. Everything is interrelated to everything else in ways that we may or may not even understand. Okay. Kevin Billner already did John. Not sure what that's about. BTW brand. No, they aren't hidden. Okay. But Tony is likely using Top Chat. I'm looking at YouTube Studio, which has it has Top Chat on there. So I'm seeing Top Chat. That's probably what it is right now. So if there's live chat going on, don't know what that is, but it says Top Chat. Should I click on live chat? Okay, let me click on live chat. All messages are, oh, there you go. Wow, there's a whole lot more messages. Thanks for telling me about Top Chat versus live chat. Again, I'm not familiar with YouTube Studio. Thanks. Two faces always flipped a coin. Batman tricks him by throwing multiple coins in the air. Yeah, I thought Batman is one of my favorite superheroes because he's a guy. He doesn't have any superpowers. He's a guy, right? He works out, so he becomes really strong. So it's debatable whether or not he's just a guy. But in either case, he's a regular human being with the power of willpower, and conviction in what he believes, and is a detective. So I like Batman. It's pretty cool. Again, I read comics. I like the whole Batman v Superman. Well, I like the whole thing with Batman v Superman in a way, because it's whether it's the comic books or the movies, Batman always takes out Superman because he always figures out how to take out Superman. Right? He's one of the few people who can. So BTW Brand live chat is more info. Yes, thank you, BTW Brand. I have switched to live chat, so thank you. Click the like button. Yeah, go ahead. I'm gonna leave this YouTube Studio thing up afterwards, of course, as far as I know, and so you guys can have a look at it. But it's basically my take on it and what's going on. I think the SVB is a big deal, and I think what they do, by what I mean the government and the powers that be do, including the quasi-governmental agencies like the Federal Reserve do, is a big deal, and they definitely should be doing things to not panic the market and not spook the markets. And the best thing they can do to not panic the markets is to fix the MMTLP problem and sacrifice a few shorts. So it has been an hour and 16 minutes. I'm gonna stay for about 5 minutes more and then head on out. So at least with the bank, at least with that bank, they announced they went wrong, and it only took them 19 minutes to tell everyone. U3 on MMTLP, no disclosure yet. Yeah, true. Aren't I in California, Tony? Yes, I'm in Silicon Valley. What part? I'm in Silicon Valley. I know the weather's been crazy. Yes, it has. Rumor has it that that the IRS is saying all of California is a disaster area, and as a result, our taxes have been pushed back till October 16th. I don't know about that. Check with your tax advisor. Check with the IRS. But rumor has it that all of California is a disaster area. I will be checking with my tax person about that. I have not checked yet. Ted Tremendous, thanks, Tony, for all your insights and work with MMTLP. Thanks. John, I have a backlog on your channel. Maybe be caught up this weekend. Oh, thanks. Okay, cool. John Wachowski. Oh, John. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I remember you, John. John, you're pretty cool. He's got a good channel. Check out John's channel on MMTLP. He talks about MMTLP and shorts and all that. He does a really good job. If you want to see me and Tony do a live chat together, let us know now. Yeah, it's a good idea. I'm not sure I know how to do live chats yet with two people, so I have to figure that out. I think I've got it mostly figured out, but the last time it was kind of confusing with a whole bunch of other stuff. Oscar predictions. I don't watch the Oscars. I don't care. Best movie I saw last year was, of course, Top Gun Maverick. And so I think that should win the Oscars, of course. Actually, I also saw, what was it? I also saw Bullet Train, and I really, really liked Bullet Train. I thought it was pretty cool. Predictions, Tony. Oscar predictions? No. John Wachowski, me neither. Okay, yeah, makes sense. John has some great YouTube videos out there. Yeah, John does have some good YouTube videos. Check him out. He's got a good channel. I highly recommend John Wachowski's channel. I've seen your channel, John. It's top notch, good, cool. Will broker dealers eventually have to reconcile? Yes, I think they will. Yeah, because it's the least costly. It's the least costly model, right? So here's the thing. Broker dealers are right now on the hook to deliver MMTLP shares to their longs. Not all broker dealers are market makers. Some of them are, in which case they're screwed big time because they naked shorted MMTLP like crazy. But the broker dealers who have not naked shorted MMTLP they should not be on the hook for the actions of the shorts. At least they don't believe that they should be on the hook, and they have a good case for that. So, as a result, broker-dealers like Fidelity will probably pass the buck in terms of passing the cost over to their short sellers, and the short sellers will have to pay the price. There is infinite risk in shorting. You should know that if you're short, of course, and Fidelity tells you that. Have you seen the previews for Hard Feelings? It looks hilarious. I have not seen the previews for Hard Feelings. Yeah. There's some pretty good movies out there right now. I did recently see what was it, Quantumania. I actually liked Quantumania. I thought it was pretty cool, and so I'm pro Quantumania. Is it anything like quantum mechanics in reality? There's a lot of quantum mechanics in there in terms of an uncertainty principle and in terms of things moving around, but there's no civilizations in quantum land. That is purely fictional, of course, but it's a nice movie. It's a cool movie. I would say Quantumania is pretty cool. Plus also I'm really into the whole Kang MCU storyline. I think Kang is a potentially bigger baddie than Thanos. Although I really liked Thanos as a big baddie. I liked him in Avengers Infinity War most, right? Because he was the best baddie there at that time. He had a reason for doing what he was doing. I mean, was he right to do what he was doing? No, of course not. He was totally wrong. Kill half life in the universe. But he had a reason for it, and he explained himself, and he had conviction. Okay? So as a result, you can't hate the guy. He had a reason, and he can explain his reasons, But Thanos in Avengers Endgame, he was just in it for whatever he's in it for, But there was no real Thanos there. As far as I was concerned, he was not a baddie there, and of course they got rid of him. Could Kang be worse? Yeah, Kang made his first appearance in what was it, Loki, which was pretty cool. And if you look at the last two episodes of Loki or something like that, it's on Disney Plus. It's pretty cool. That Kang talks about the multiverse and multiversal war and how whole universes get destroyed and multiple universes get destroyed as a result of multiversal wars. And then you got Kang the Conqueror, and then so it's an idea, right? Someone who could move forward and back in time. Did they have a really good Kang in Quantumania? He was an okay Kang. He wasn't a great Kang. Anyway, moving on from movie talk. Fee runs with AMC. Do you think Fidelity was trying to stick us with the tax bill? I think Fidelity was confused. I think they knew that they had to do taxes, so they did something in panic, and it was obviously wrong. And they're probably working with the IRS and SEC to try to figure out what to do. They don't know what to do. The whole thing is a mess. BTW Brand said they're just delaying the inevitable. Have to be patient. Yeah, basically. Yeah, I agree with BTW Brand. He's pretty cool. He's got a good take on it. BTW Brand can't find all the Marvel stuff in one place, so I've skipped it all. The Marvel stuff does go on. Yeah, but it's interesting because you look at Marvel and you look at DC. They both have good storylines. But the DC storyline, it just didn't go anywhere. I mean, compared to the MCU, it didn't go anywhere, right? I mean, the best thing that came out of DC, I think, is Zack Snyder's Justice League, right? And that was way, way better than the original Justice League, which was okay, but Zack Snyder's version of that was phenomenal. But I'm still waiting for a really, really cool DC movie. Vaughn, Loki was good. We need season 2. Yeah, Loki season 2 would be awesome. Agree with that. Fee runs with AMC. I hope they get it sorted soon. I'm going to need a couple, surgeries probably. Yeah, I hear you. Yeah, I know. I need to get some cash soon too, so that's why I went with the GTI play. I'm not recommending anyone go with the GTI play. That's me. I think it's got a good shot, and so that's what I did. Okay. Anyway, I haven't been postponing the surgeries actually. You got to do what you got to do for health reasons. Fee rhymes with AMC. Don't know what your health condition is, but health comes before money usually, typically, unless it's something like cosmetic elective surgeries, right? If you if you want to look better or something like that, and you want to get liposuction, that's an elective surgery. Yeah. John Wachowski, I'm in on GTII too. Not advice. Yeah, exactly. Again, GTII I think is something. It's not advice at all. It's just what I'm doing. Just being honest with you guys. I spent a lot on MMTLP. It should have moved. It did not move. It's been in stasis right now. And for me, I found some money along the way, and I said, "Hey, I got no place to put this money right now. I'm certainly not going to put it in the S&P 500." So I looked around and I said, yeah, the best place for me right now temporarily is GTII. So I have GTII and some cash positions. I also have, so what do I think is going to happen with GTII? Could it skyrocket next week? Who knows? Maybe it could. Could shorts still attack it like crazy to try to shake the tree? Maybe. Who knows? They might drive the price down. And so if they do drive the price down, I have some limit buy orders right now. So if they drive the price down, I am perfectly happy with short sellers on GTI, because I will have picked up more shares of GTII. So if they let the price skyrocket and the price goes up, I'm perfectly happy with that as well too. So in either case, I could use some more GTII shares. So if shorts drive the price down, I have some additional cash that's in there for that. That not financial advice, not financial advisor. That's just me. I'm doing what I do. Okay. Billy one, Tony, I think the SEC will stop shorting only on banks. They could, but if they do stop shorting only on banks, if I was long bank shares, I would sell my bank shares if they pulled that, right? So that's why you don't want to stop shorting on bank shares, because then the longs could pull their shares, because they say, if the price is going down, why do I got to be in on this? Take the money out now and buy it back again later when the price is much lower, right? There you go. And I don't think the SEC wants people to take money out of bank shares right now, because that'll drive the price even lower, right? So they got a little bit of tightrope to walk. Okay. Kevin Miller, Hub C for me, not financial advice. Yeah, there you go. The Bank of England said, Ted Tremendous, the Bank of England said late Friday, it will put SVB UK in its insolvency procedure and pay out eligible depositors up to 170k British pounds, $200,000 for joint accounts as quickly as possible. Yeah, FDIC may be crap, but quite frankly, it's better than what people have in the UK. So sorry about that for people in the UK. Yeah, FDIC is crap, but it's a little bit better than what is out there. I've heard that things can be worse outside the US. So there you go. BT. The other thing was, of course, everyone saw that the headline from the New York Post that what was it? SVB basically had a bunch of people coming into their office to withdraw all their money, and so their Manhattan branch called the cops and said, "Hey, stop our depositors from coming in and taking out their money. They shouldn't be doing that." So let's see. AMC says, or Kylie Hines says, "Who's my broker?" I use Fidelity mostly. Yeah. View runs with AMC, TRKA bag holder here. I do not know anything about TRKA. You all have a good night. By John Wiskowski. GTG, hit like, thumbs up. Yeah. Good night, John. Thanks. I'm going to be heading out myself. Good point. And it has been live streaming now for an hour and a half almost. So good night to everyone. With that, I'm going to say goodbye. Thanks for tuning in. And that's it. Bye now.